Dobry den. Ovdje sam već godinu dana, ali još uvijek ne govorim srpski dobro. Hajde da probamo na engleskom. So, welcome everybody once again. Thank you very much for coming. It's very kind of you that you found the time to be with us for some discussion about blockchain, how to start and run the company. If I may ask you just to briefly tell us who you are and what kind of business you're up and running. I mean, you're already in a startup or you're thinking about a startup. So who's preparing to start up? Raise your hand. Or thinking about a startup. One. Who already has a startup? Wow, half of you. Is it blockchain based or is just a general startup? Blockchain. Wow, cool. Okay, so we can be the expert with me. Good.
Up to you.
Okay, so I prepare for today a few slides and hope you'll find interesting things for you, because we will start with a question, because part of you know already what a blockchain is, part of you maybe not, or we have to be the same page, understand briefly what's that, so we discuss a little bit. Startup or matured company, because of you somebody will think about switching from different roles, from the organized companies to startup or to start something as a side job. One thing we often overlook, 7 questions we should ask. Startups aren't cool anymore. There's a famous discussion up and now if it's still good or not. Life cycle of startup, full decision to be done, and few more things. So if we start the question, what's the blockchain? Can we find a definition, or who can tell what's that? How do you understand blockchain? Any? Something mysterious, non-defined. Any other?
Something secret.
Secret, okay. Because
public as well.
Public, okay. But what's the base? Any ideas from the side? From the room? Come on.
Decentralized mostly.
Channel blocks,
Cool.
which are cryptographically.
Lovely. Who's cryptographer here, or who's a programmer? We have? One only, good. So the rest knows a little bit, okay? That's a common sense. Good. So let me start with a short movie, only 2 minutes, to just briefly describe what I understand and what's my understanding of the blockchain.
Blockchain is peer-to-peer software technology that protects the integrity of a digital piece of information. It was invented to create the alternative currency Bitcoin, but may be used for other cryptocurrencies, online signature services, voting systems, and many other applications. In this video, we explain how it works and what makes it special. Everyone uses paper money. When you get a $10 bill, you trust that it's not fake. If instead someone sent you an email saying, "Here's $10, you probably wouldn't trust it. But when we transfer money, use an ATM, or pay with a deposit card, that's pretty much exactly what we do. We're sending money and a digital message. To make sure no one's cheating or sending money they don't have, these messages go through a few trusted banks that keep a record of everything. They know how much money everyone has and deduct it properly for every transaction. But this becomes expensive when there's a million transactions around the world every minute. The Economist estimates that banks charged us more than $1.7 trillion to process these payments in 2014. That's about 2% of the entire world economy. With blockchain, we can save a lot of this cost because it lets us send money just like sending an email. Instead of sending a lot of payment information through a few servers, blockchain uses thousands of personal computers on the internet. All transactions are copied and cross-checked between every computer in a system-wide accounting book called the ledger, which becomes very safe at scale. Blockchain doesn't just allow us to create safe money online, it lets us protect any piece of digital information. This could be online identity cards, voter ballots, contracts, and many other legal instruments, bringing bureaucracy into the 21st century.
On the list you can find Christian Catalini, professor of MIT. Probably part of you know that he's involved in the Facebook coin or Facebook crypto. So he just left MIT, went to work with Mark Zuckerberg. But continuing our discussion about how to run a startup blockchain, I presented this video to discuss with you because why we need the blockchain and why we think about this technology to start your own company or to start your business. Because of decentralized, as you mentioned, because of the privacy, because of its trust increasing. So that could be lead us to different attachments where you can put really DLT, so decentralized distributed ledger technology. Either it's going to be a healthcare or legal contracts or entertainment, manufacturing, supply chain, any kind of business where there's many tons of bureaucracy, as it was mentioned, papers, or something that needs to be distributed and trusted and checked simultaneously without something intermediary like a banks, which cost us $1.7 trillion only in 2014. So deciding about blockchain, about a startup, you can find your industry you're in. I mean, insurance, or you may be a finance guy, or maybe you're a lawyer who wants to have your acts, your every documents on blockchain. So that's the first start. Why blockchain? And which industry or where? Another question, because that's related to financing. How are you gonna have it? Does it be, will it be centralized blockchain, or is it gonna be decentralized blockchain fully? If it's gonna be fully decentralized, the question is how you raise the money, IPO or any crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, or any other solutions, or you will have an investor who will invest in this distributed ledger just to bring the customer later on coming. But the question with the technology always is about the persistence, because you need a time to draw it. One of you sitting over here was producing his own shop on the blockchain or on the standard websites, but with a blockchain opportunity to pay. So that's also, he took 2 months beside the job, doing something all and having money to pay deal normal lives. So that's the question. So centralized, decentralized, and which industry you're in. Having that and thinking about startup, you would also discuss and question about where are you in your career, where do you live. We are all in this Belgrade, so that's better than being a kind of a Ukraine part which is under war, or in other countries where are not stable situation with legal, or being in America where it's there was some difficulties with running cryptocurrency businesses for some time. Or what's your industry preferences, products for the company which will be building, and other factors that may impact of your idea of your startup. As discussing that, part of you who have ever worked with startup, do you know how it is working with a startup? What to expect? You know also. Free. The rest will probably be surprised, because normally and standardly in startup you will have a broad scope and the variety of work, so everybody will doing everything. Scrappiness with a little cash always, or if you have a high and rich sponsor, that's maybe difficult. Small team, solo work, limited mentorship. You don't have how to do it. There won't be a best practices or something how to do it properly, because you have to find out. It will be your role to set it. Ambiguity and frequent course corrections, that's what's called agile, that you're starting, preparing minimum value product proposition, and then you see that customer is not reacting, you can set it, so you switch to a different model, or you change your idea for another one. So mixed bags of investors. The question is who's gonna give you money or raise you with your startup. Limited benefits and salary for the very entering moment. More equity, but the value will be unknown, and of course unstable and unknown brand. But versus that, we have mature companies or already existing one. When you have best practices, role models are set up. Clear direction, roadmap, we know where we're going, that's the different position. exposure to success at a scale if you are part of a big international organization, narrow scope of work, but you are very focused on what you're doing and your role is very highly defined. May move slower, and that's the question is how you find yourself in the international organization where the decision can take 6 months or something, and you are able or you want to do something quick and fast. Now, of course, less contemporary processes and tools. They're also still using emails when we switch to Slack or to Telegram or to any different communicators. Multifunctional teams, mature investors, great benefits, sales traction, and of course brand name. So the question for you will be about the 2 attributes that are needed to to start and to run any startup, and the blockchain startup in particular. First will be pushing the limits. That we want to do something new, that we want to, can we design a better system? Can we find a better way to describe? Or, and thinking like an owner, because you're going to be a part of this company, or the startup. So you're going to be responsible for your daily operations also, but, electricity bills and any other, expenses you will have on the road. The question about a startup also goes to the culture of the startup, kind of a mindset of people who are willing, who are thinking about startup, who wants to do startup, or who want to be involved in startup. So first, you're on a mission. It's not a kind of a daily job. It's rather unusual that you are starting at 8 or leaving at 3 p.m. and you have off. Normally when you're a startup, you are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days on the job. On the job. Always thinking about, always discussing about, always answering calls from the customers, from the investors, or from your team. Your offers are clearly and directly linked to overall success, and you can see results immediately almost. And of course, there's a greater sense of adventure to achieve something no one has ever been achieved before, and especially in blockchain, which is still in not so mature technology and still evolving, and we see it all normally on a daily basis from China to States and other countries. Okay, one thing which is often overlooked when we're considering a new role or switching from existing company to startup or entering startup or being a part of startup, what is it? How do you think? What's the sometimes very frequently overlooked?
Overlooked? Well, usually things go bad when you don't want them to.
Okay.
That's one of the things.
Cool. Any other? What we sometimes overlook when we're thinking about switching the job, we normally think about money, how much more we have, responsibilities, or new role, something, traveling maybe or not if you don't want. What do we overlook? One word only, but very from my perspective, from projects where I've been involved in Europe, I've been for the last 20 years working in 15 countries already. So this is my 16th destination, from Turkey to UK, from Germany to Poland and to other countries. So what I see is leadership, one word. Because either you are the leader of the startup, or you will be as you start the company, or you'll be part of starting and running industry business, or you're gonna be involved in something which is already running, already selling, but still under the construction or under the construction process. So leadership is important. Why? Because normally you have 5 types of leaders, and especially in the blockchain also. Startup founded by serial entrepreneurs. So by the guys who already seen this movie before, they know exactly what to expect, they know how it works, they know how to deal. So they have a huge experience in terms of startup. Industry veterans doing for their first startup, like we discussed about the finance guy or the lawyers or the insurance guy who wants to create something on blockchain. Good, they have a deep knowledge about the industry, how it works, where the money comes from, how it's built, what's the business model. But when it goes to startup, sometimes they lack of the leadership exposure and leadership roles. Third one will be a startup with limited experience, so somehow knows that, how to run people, how to manage people, how to deal with the other investors. Mature company with inexperienced leadership, That's the best probably, and the second one, mature company experience. Okay? That's there are two. So we have existing businesses already, which were startups at some point of time, but still, the question is about is this experienced guys who knows how to run and how to deal with the daily operation and with the strategic advances, or they are only focusing on the day job and don't care about people. That's the problem. We'll discuss in a minute what's the problem. So, taking this chart, you can see that from the 5 years industry experience or less may take bigger risks, less to lose, benefits of objectivity, may not be self-aware. This part of startups and less than 5 year experience. Comparing to others, when we have more than a little bit 5 years, technology of blockchain started 5 years ago, say 6.
Yeah.
Something like that, so still amateur, so we'll be probably somewhere in the middle, rising to the second part of this chart. So that's the situation where we are exactly at the moment. And discussing that, we will also have to ask ourselves, as future startup owners or future startup participants, these 7 questions. First, will this role in the startup allows you to hone skills you already have, or will add you a new one? First one. Second one, how important is the science and the culture of the team you will work with? Because you're gonna spend with these guys more time with your family probably. Not only for the beginning of the rising and starting the startup, but for a year, 2 years, something when it's gonna be still up and growing. So define how important is the size of the company for you in your operation. Third one, what tools do you want to add to your toolbox? What new things you would like to learn? Fourth, who do you want to learn? So the question is gonna be an experienced guy who already starts several companies, bankrupt maybe, failed sometimes, and is matured and knows how it works, or it's gonna be a totally green horse, starting from like you, totally wanted to escape on the moon without rocket science. So who do you want to learn? Fifth, how do you want to learn? How? I mean, by doing or by reading. You probably preparing your shop, you were studying by your own. So the question is, how do you want to learn? And who do you want to work with? And the last one, what you really value. If you are set and your mindset is to have daily, monthly payments regularly on your account and having, as it was discussed, you should probably work in a matured company, because in startups normally sometimes are delays, sometimes are lack of money, or something investor wouldn't pay, or some discussions having the standard. That's always so. That's the decision you have to take once considering any startup and the blockchain startup in particular. Good. Let's move to the question about the startups. Are they still cool, or aren't cool anymore? Matt Kirsilov is a famous man in Silicon Valley, and he once published on Twitter that startups are a lot less cool than they used to be. Why? Two things. First, from his perspective and from the Americans' experience, the romantic view of the startups is no longer true. I mean, there's still plenty of venture capitalists, plenty of angel investors, and VCs waiting for something really new, or the new Airbnb, or the new Twitter, or the new Facebook to invest. But the standard statistics, and Tim Draper, famous also Silicon Valley investor, says it's standard that 1 out of 10 will bankrupt, will fail. So when you have 10 startups in your portfolio, then probably only 1 will survive, maybe 2, but it will be very good statistics. 8 probably will die. You won't agree?
Well, I talked to a lot of people from that, and they say especially in the blockchain crypto industry, the delivery is less than 1%.
Less.
So it's 1 in 100, and that if you look at 100 startups and one of them succeed, that's a good thing. 2 are wow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the risks we have and we're facing. Exactly.
But I think sorry to interrupt. I think that now more than ever, because In earlier days when internet was not so much
Popular
and so
yeah.
on, only a fewer people actually dared to make a startup. Today everybody can do it. So now you have,
Especially when they are technology guy or
yes.
something.
So now besides being expert or not, but in fields of like investing and so on, you also have to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, and psychoanalyst, because honestly there are so much people who are complete jerks out there who are pitching for their startup, but mentally they have so distorted views on how to lead people. So if you can see that you are sitting opposite to an idiot, you will save yourself a lot of money and a lot of money. My honest.
Are you an investor also?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But I work with
Yeah,
people from
yeah.
the industry, and like everybody agree, like it's
Of
more and
course.
more idiots in the startup industry than ever.
Well, maybe the freaks. I won't call them the idiots, but the freaks or geeks dedicated to something. Well, from other perspective, if you compare the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs, was also considered by the participants too freaky. Some people resigned to working with Apple because it was so horrible, so traumatic experience for them to work with the guy who was so focused on the product and on the customer service side. So that's the question: how to find if you're really an idiot or the freak who have an idea and really can and want to do something. Yeah. So having that, so angel investors and venture capital are still waiting in the queue to invest in your startup. No, that's not true anymore. Mainly personal savings and the famous 3F. Family, friends, and fools. That's the main sources of investments. And the question is, for how long you will have the money to invest? Will it be in 1 year? Will it be 2 years or something? I recently have in Poland a situation when one guy left the corporation, international company, with some saving and he started a startup. Good. He was working hardly on computing and all the stuff, and after 6 months he said, no, that's gonna not work. I'm coming back to the company. It's a different one, of course, but not the same. But he quit or limited his engagement in the startup. So the question is, how long are you going to be focused and dedicated? The second one, in terms of financing, is also the question about the competition from abroad. If you see the looks on the numbers, and China is investing pretty much in the startups, and only in last year, 2017 even, top 5 global venture capitalists, 3 of this was Chinese. So they are investing in startups, and from America perspective, that's why startups in the States are not so cool as they used to be in the past. Good. If we're discussing about life cycle of the startup and what you can expect having a blockchain startup and running the company, what kind of the issues you will have, and what will be the, this anecdote or is a comparison how to define the lifestyle of the startup. Any ideas? Why? What's the levels and the limits? We can call it in 3, or divided in 3. First will be the totally jungle. Well, the product startup phase, market fit only, the scream and the loud will be build it. We have to build it. Number of people in stage standardly is from the 1 to 15, that's the limit. And of course, different skills. They're going to be total risk takers, adventure guys, exploring. With guys with machetes going to jungle and doing their own path. Second, when you grow, then you have a product and press scaling. Then you have a sell it. Once you've built it, you have to sell it. Then you have probably more than around 50 people. So in European conditions, they're going to be probably by 2. So from 1 to 25 will be the jungle phase. From 25 to 50 to 70 will be dirt road. And then after 50 will be, that's going to be a huge company. I know the factories in Poland which have 100 people and they are selling everywhere. Totally standard factory, family business owned. But of course they want to grow to 300 or something, so that's the business. And the highway, of course. So this is post-scaling sales and marketing. The voice will be, we need to scale under the cell. More people and of course different types of skills will be needed. So optimizer and tracer, somebody who knows how to run the business already existing with so many people and people tasks mainly. So that's jungle, dirt road and highway. From other perspective, we as theory and practice also decide and defines we have 3 stages. First will be bootstrapping stage, second is a seed stage, and the last one is creation. Bootstrapping is an individual effort, you or your friend together in a duet, you are doing something. Family and friends and fools are investing, low investment vary, and maybe some angel investor will invest in you once they see a potential, and we'll discuss in a minute how they do it. Seed stage will be of course teamwork, so more than 2, 3, 4, 5 more. Valuation, first initial sales or some clients coming, average investments on the very average level, and of course accelerators, incubators then can help. And I know that in Serbia it's trying, and the government is also preparing some startup solutions, so that's good. In Poland you have, probably, I know I was working for one company which was funded by European Union money, but they established 11 points in the main universities, in the main cities, allowing the startups, totally startups from the university students, guys, just to give them legal entity for the first invoices, just to work them and incubate them. Then once they grow and have some product, they can be legalized under the name and having their own brand in the same localization, the same place. And then also they founded a fund who can invest in the startups which are rising. And the 2, 3, maybe 10, I know, when I was involved in Brand 24 or Planet Plus or some other startups in Poland who are really working and doing great in terms of different industries. So that's the 3 life cycle startups phases. And of course the third one, creation, will be organization, arrangements, corporate finance, high investment, venture capital and so on. Good? Okay, let me compare how to run the startup and how to start with the startup. We can take different example, Amazon, whatever you want, but I selected Instagram, how they started, just to show that Kevin learned the code at night after work, his daily work. Then he built an HTML prototype called Button, gave it to the friends to test. Then he met some investors on the party, showed them the idea and what he thinks about, and then they invest. So he quit the job, found co-founder, looked at what they had in the app and did everything from the totally different points. So agile, they said, okay, that's not good, we can switch to different models. Prototype again, photo sharing application from scratch. Built a pretty awful photo application, went back to the old version of the button, rename it, threw it, and after 8 weeks they started with just Instagram as we see now. But as we compare, mentioned Facebook. If you compare Facebook and Instagram, what is now? Instagram is much more higher in terms of popularity, in terms of usage, in terms of and Instagram is already introducing a new application for the software that you can, if you have a photo of something, you can buy it also. They recognize the product you have on the picture, you can find where it is and you can buy it if you want. So that's the evolution of Instagram now, after a few years of the creation. So if you think really about starting your own startup and your blockchain startup base, there are things you have to remember. First, you have to live in the future, thinking ahead, what's changing, what's growing. We had everything that going to be augmented reality, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, payments in the internet. Good, that's the future for sure. And we know that huge companies are investing a lot of money, so we can find a niche. Second, what is missing in the world around you, from your colleagues, from your friends? What do you think that there's something, there's lack of this, or you're thinking that we can be part of it? Write it down and bounce ideas around, so discuss it. Then make a prototype, start. As you have your shop, now you can produce, say, okay, that's my idea, that's what we got. If you compare the Safex, the same. They have only on paper now, but will be produced in a few soon, so that's something you can touch, you can, okay, that's how it works, okay, I understand more. Then, show it to 100 people. Standardly 100, but of course, the more, the better feedback you have. Then, iterate on the prototype, then the final co-founder. That's crucial. Have somebody you can bounce, you can discuss, or maybe it could be an advisor like me, or somebody who seen things before, know how it works, can help to support you, because nobody is a genius. Even Steve Jobs had a guy who was a graphic designer preparing an app. Okay, then having the co-founder, have a good lawyer, or have a good agreement with them, or especially once you have an angel investor, or somebody who invests the money. So have a lawyer, prepare yourself, because there are some, you know the movie about Zuckerberg and the Facebook? So that's the situation normally happens is everywhere. Look for funding, launch, start. Truly, briefly, just do it. And then you see. If the clients will come back, cool. You should continue. Get to 1,000 users, then grow 5% a week or a month, and then if you keep doing and the clients will be coming back and buying and sharing, then you're going to grow. But if they're not coming back, then you think, start the process all over again, or maybe from this perspective, relaunching and rebounding and thinking differently about what needed, how to be better in this area. I think there's somebody waiting to enter the room. Okay, having said that, if you think about startup and if you think about blockchain startup, there are 4 decisions you need to discuss, you need to take. First, customers, whom you want to sell. Who is your target customer? Whom you're thinking about? Is it the guys or programmers, miners, or there are investors, or there are traders with the cryptocurrencies, or there are different people, only young or older, who? Second question will be technology, because as you know, even in the blockchain you can find different types. Yep, this kind of blockchain, as we said, centralized, decentralized, this one Monero-based, maybe others. So select technology which will be the best for your solution. Third will be a culture. How you're gonna run the company. And of course, competitors. Do you want to combine with them? Do you want to compete? Do you want to do something similar? Because if you're looking for advisory to advise what startup you should choose, the best, of course, will be find something where the poor service at higher cost. So poor service at high cost. This gives you opportunity to have better service and limit the costs, and you're the winner. Majority of these are in government, unfortunately. Even if it's Serbia, if it's Poland, whatever it is, poor service and a very high cost. So that's the solution. But that's how I was working for Medicover for 3 years, leading Central European healthcare provider. They have offices in Poland, Estonia, Czech Republic, Hungary, and even Romania and Bulgaria. How it happened that they decided to stop? Man in Africa was hurt after the safari race, and he needed an ambulance to take him back to Europe. So he survived happily, but having that accident, he said, well, okay, maybe they are finding something that people are rich or getting richer, they want to spend more to be protected from the healthcare perspective, then I can offer them something basic care and then expand. And then after 10 years, they grow the huge company which is now delivering service even in the States in terms of serious disasters or serious cancers or something like that. So that's the model. So competitors who are working with. These 4 decisions, you have to decide which way you want to run your startup. Cool. What makes successful startup team? If you would like, I can share this article. It was published, as you see, in March this year, so it's pretty fresh. Eva de Mol is a Netherlands PhD who's also investor and in doing startup. And 2 years ago, she decided to say, okay, what makes successful startups? What's the key to understand what really works? And she made a research based on 95 startups in incubator in Netherlands. She gave them a questionnaire on the very first, asking about standard things, what they were doing on the very early stage. And after a year, she came back to them, checking the same questionnaire and seeing the results. What was interesting in this result and why I want to share? First, when the venture capitalists are looking, and that's what I promised you to talk, they do due diligence, they are looking at the three components. First, does the company has an interesting business model? Where the money comes from? Second, how big is the potential market, the customers? Will be growing, will be declining, will be expanding only in Serbia as your shop is now, or maybe regional, Balkans, or maybe global, or maybe some, how big is the market? And the third one, what are the growth plans of the company? And what appears also, that venture capitalists and any investors will take a look on your company from 5 perspectives. What innovation you have in products, what innovation you have in terms of service, customer satisfaction, how you measure and how you deal with this, cost control, if you have somebody who's, or you're just spending and money are coming from investor, you're just spending and burning. And it's also a question currently in Poland, if you compare the rates, how many startups or companies were opened over the last couple of years and how much exists already continue, majority, 80% of the money were burned. You just invest and then just go. Expected sales growth, how it really gonna grow, how it really gonna bring the money for the investors. But that's not the question, because that's not the answer of the question, what's made a successful startup team. So what's the answer? 3 things. Prior startup experience, partially, product knowledge, and industry skills. These 3 combined gives you a little bit of predictability and predict a success of the new venture. So having this 3, there's a chance that you're gonna be surviving. And you have to remember that number. 60% of the ventures, even if they're flying after the first year of investment, they have problems, they fail due to the team.
Sounds very optimistic.
60%. That's the standard and that's the research. Not only in Netherlands by the EBA, but globally we can compare the numbers. It seems that more than 50% will have some problems of the team, different one, and we'll discuss it also later on. So be prepared. Good. Okay. So the balance between the hard skills, technology, business model, and the soft skills, passion, vision, and having people also thinking the same situation. I was involved, the funny story I can share, I was involved a year ago. In Poland there was a guy, a doctor and engineer. They both combined and said, okay, we are thinking about the healthcare, and some kind of, they have an iPhone, and we have a broad community of Poles living in UK, 2 million people, more than Warsaw. So they were living in UK, they needed doctors. Speaking Polish, because understanding English when something hurts is difficult, so you should have a doctor. So the idea was good to have an application on the phone that you can call your doctor, put some measures on your body, and they will check your body initially, then goes what to go, where to go, not to. And they started to work on it. Then they prepared the prototype. Fantastic. They have 4 investors, and I know them. Probably somebody is waiting to enter also. Mm-hmm. So the guys were dealing, but the doctor and the engineers treated this startup as a side job. The doctor had the normal visits in the normal healthcare center, and the engineer was also involved in the polytechnics or the technical university, also part of the start job. And the investors also give the money, were interested, but not too much. They haven't been engaged 100% of the time, 150% of the time. So what happened? They received some awards in London and in Poland for the future potential, very interesting product. So they will continue works, but financing limited. 6 investors, each one gave something like 100,000 euros. So not too bad, not too good, but just limited. But things were good, they were not selling, they were thinking, still prototyping, and they forget about it. But suddenly they received an information from the government that for new healthcare specialist application there are money. You can invest, but we will give you 2 million zlotys, which is €500,000. You can have it, but you have to co-invest 1/3, and you have your own money. So this first investment was run out, and the investors said we won't invest anymore. We want 2 years spend money, what to do. So they asked me to go and make a round of the potential investors, angels and VCs and private equity who really were taking a risk and wanted to do. And they said, well, no, not so interested. And the time was running because the promise of the money from the government was only limited in time. So what they finally decide? They decided to sell it. And the healthcare company, not the one I was working, different one, also small, just bought the technology. And they invest. So, but the question is, there were 6 investors and this engineer and this doctor, and they all were in some point of time fighting. Different ideas. One wanted to sell, one wanted to continue, one wanted to do sometimes, some part of job. Never works. So that's why you have to find a balance. They have the same vision, what really want to do, how and when, which part of times, and of course, access there's going to be delays on the roads. Because not a straight highway, it's always a kind of a jump and bump. Okay, what matters most of the startup, and we're going to finish in a minute because the food is waiting, I know you can be hungry. So, what matters most in the startup success? If you can decide, after what I told you, what will be the most important factors of any startups, on a blockchain startup for sure.
Skills.
Cool.
Team.
Cool.
Leadership.
Okay, so the
Cash flow.
cash flow, free.
Consistency.
What?
Consistency.
Okay. What else?
Dedication.
Good.
Clear profit.
Cool. What else?
Clear vision.
Lovely. Okay. There are 5. In fact. The ideas, as we mentioned, team, business model, funding, and timing. If you would like to discuss and decide which one is the most important, and that will be probably the answer of the question how to start and run the blockchain startup, I will show you a video, 6 minutes only. I'll be happy to introduce you a guy, who invested in more than 100 startups in Silicon Valley. And he knows what we're talking about.
I'm really excited to share with you some findings that really surprised me about what makes companies succeed the most, what factors actually matter the most for startup success. I believe that the startup organization is one of the greatest forms to make the world a better place. If you take a group of people with the right equity incentives and organize them in a startup, you can unlock human potential in a way never before possible. You get them to achieve unbelievable things. But if the startup organization is so great, why do so many fail? That's what I wanted to find out. I wanted to find out what actually matters most for startup success. And I wanted to try to be systematic about it, avoid some of my instincts and maybe misperceptions I have from so many companies I've seen over the years. I wanted to know this because I've been starting businesses since I was 12 years old, when I sold candy at the bus stop in junior high school, to high school when I made solar energy devices, to college when I made loudspeakers, and when I graduated from college, started software companies. And 20 years ago, I started Idea Lab, and in the last 20 years, we started more than 100 companies, many successes and many big failures. We learned a lot from those failures. So I tried to look across what factors accounted the most for company success and failure. So I looked at these 5. First, the idea. I used to think that the idea was everything. I mean, I named my company Idea Lab and how much I worship the aha moment when you first come up with the idea. But then over time, I came to think that maybe the team, the execution, adaptability, that mattered even more than the idea. I never thought I'd be quoting boxer Mike Tyson on the TED stage, but he once said, "Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face." And I think that's so true about business as well. So much about a team's execution is its ability to adapt to getting punched in the face by the customer. The customer is the true reality. And that's why I came to think that the team maybe was the most important thing. Then I started looking at the business model. Does the company have a very clear path generating customer revenues? That started rising to the top in my thinking about maybe what mattered most for success. Then I looked at the funding. Sometimes companies received intense amount of funding. Maybe that's the most important thing. And then, of course, the timing. Is the idea way too early and the world's not ready for it? Is it early, meaning you're in advance and you have to educate the world? Is it just right, or is it too late and there's already too many competitors? So I tried to look very carefully at these 5 factors across many companies. And I looked across all 100 Idea Lab companies and 100 non-Idea Lab companies to try and come up with something scientific about it. So first, on these Idea Lab companies, the top 5 companies, CitySearch, Cars Direct, GoTo, NetZero, Tickets.com, those all became billion-dollar successes. And the 5 companies on the bottom, Z.com, Insider Pages, My Life, Desktop Factory, People Inc., we all had high hopes for, but didn't succeed. So I tried to rank across all of those attributes how I felt those companies scored on each of those dimensions. And then for non-Idea Lab companies, I looked at wild successes like Airbnb and Instagram and Uber and YouTube and LinkedIn, and some failures, Webvan, Cosmo, Pets.com, Flues, and Friendster. The bottom companies had intense funding. They even had business models in some cases, but they didn't succeed. I tried to look at what factors actually accounted the most for success and failure across all these companies, and the results really surprised me. The number one thing was timing. Timing accounted for 42% of the difference between success and failure. Team and execution came in second, and the idea, the differentiability of the idea, the unique idea, that actually came in third. Now, this isn't absolutely definitive. It's not to say that the idea isn't important, but it very much surprised me that the idea wasn't the most important thing. Sometimes it mattered more when it was actually timed. The last 2, business model and funding, made sense to me, actually. I think business model makes sense to be that low because you can start out without a business model and then add one later if your customers are demanding what you're creating. And funding, I think as well. If you're underfunded at first, but you're gaining traction, especially in today's age, it's very, very easy to get intense funding. So now let me give you some specific examples about each of these. So take a wild success like Airbnb, everybody knows about. Well, that company was famously passed on by many smart investors because people thought, no one's going to rent out a space in their home to a stranger. Of course, people proved that wrong. But one of the reasons it succeeded, aside from a good business model, a good idea, great execution, is the timing. That company came out right during the height of the recession when people really needed extra money. And that maybe helped people overcome their objection to renting out their own home to a stranger. Same thing with Uber. Uber came out, incredible company, incredible business model, great execution too, but the timing was so perfect for their need to get drivers into the system. Drivers were looking for extra money. It was very, very important. Some of our early successes, CitySearch came out when people needed web pages. GoTo.com, which we announced actually at TED in 1998, was when companies were looking for cost-effective ways to get traffic. We thought the idea was so great, but actually the timing was probably maybe more important. And then some of our failures. We started a company called Z.com. It was an online entertainment company. We were so excited about it. We raised enough money. We had a great business model. We'd even signed incredibly great Hollywood talent to join the company. But broadband penetration was too low in 1999, 2000. It was too hard to watch video content online. You had to put codecs in your browser and do all this stuff. And the company eventually went out of business in 2003. Just 2 years later, when the codec problem was solved by Adobe Flash, and when broadband penetration crossed 50% in America, YouTube was perfectly timed. Great idea, but unbelievable timing. And in fact, YouTube didn't even have a business model when it first started. It wasn't even certain that that would work out. But that was beautifully, beautifully timed. So what I would say in summary is execution definitely matters a lot. The idea matters a lot, but timing might matter even more. And the best way to really assess timing is to really look whether consumers are really ready for what you have to offer them, and to be really, really honest about it, not be in denial about any results that you see. Because if you have something you love, you want to push it forward, but you have to be very, very honest about that factor on timing. As I said earlier, I think startups can change the world and make the world a better place. I hope some of these insights can maybe help you have a slightly higher success ratio and thus make something great come to the world that wouldn't have happened otherwise. Thank you very much. Been a great audience.
That's the deal's view. Of course, the question now we can discuss is if it's good timing for blockchain startups or not. We should wait or start prepare something in the garage, like we used to before, HP and Apple, or just or is it the momentum now when we have to discuss and start doing something really intense. Few more slides just before the dinner. Having that. Because there are some problems on the way you should avoid. And there are normally, some graphic I will show you, 18 mistakes you can meet, you can find on your startup journey. First will be the single founder. If you're gonna be the sole investor, the single founder, that's gonna be probably a problem. Second will be the bad location, question of where to go. Is this Serbia a good place for blockchain? Currently, for sure, due to regulations, due to openness, region, of course, it's good location. Good? Okay, marginal niche, whom you're gonna serve, which customers? Derivative idea of gonna be obstinacy, hiring bad programmers, choosing the wrong platform, even in the blockchain. Slowness in launching, there's gonna be delays and problems. Of course, launching too early, that's the timing. 10, having no specific user in the mind, rising too little, or as the opposite, rising too much. So where's the momentum, where's the moment that is good enough money to have in the process? Maybe, and that's a very common procedure, once you have some kind of an investment from the angel, they want to see results. And they pay you more money once you are growing and once they see really this potential up and running. Project is running on time, no delays, not too much delays. People are having still, team is keeping together and the vision is realized. So spending too much, poor investor management, both sides. I mean, investor engaged in the startup and your role as a startup manager to manage your investor. Because you have to keep him updated, notice him about some unexpected problems on the horizon, manage that somehow, manage his expectation because he wants to be a rich guy and double EBITDA four times on the very early stage, which sometimes or maybe not is not possible. Okay, so also sacrificing user and a few more, 3 more. Not wanting to get your hands dirty, so you're a sole inventor, you have an idea what you want to do anymore. Fights between founders, and that's what happens pretty much. And of course, half-hearted engagement, so treating as a too long as a side job. That's all from my side in terms of discussion how to run and start your startup. If you want, I will happy to share this article and this research about the startup failures and successful teams. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Then we can continue with dinners and drinks and beer, which is also waiting. Any questions? No questions. Yeah, cool.
When you say the Serbia is a blockchain destination, what do you think that Serbia has as a benefit for startups?
Yes. I was discussing this with Romanian and Bulgarian guys a year ago, and they told me 2 things, the same we have in Poland. All good developers who were really good went to Germany already. And Berlin, which euros prices, is a good destination. But you still have very good educated people here in place who cannot leave the family or want to emigrate, don't speak German, feel rather secure here in place, the same in Serbia, the same in Poland and in Bulgaria. So all these countries in the Central and Eastern Europe has a huge advantage in terms of educated staff, cultural differences. I know 2 histories from Łódź, from Poland, in the mid of Poland, that huge companies were moving this how it calls, center of the customer service center from India to Poland or to Romania due to the cultural differences. They had Hindu guys working in the customer service, dealing with the invoices, and it failed.
People usually avoid Indians because their concept of quality or everything is completely opposite to the European Western. So and basically you have huge problems understanding them because I was contacted by a few companies offering blockchain development, and it was like a Skype call, and it's like basically understanding.
Right.
Blockchain, Ethereum. You can't understand what they're saying.
That's true. That's true. That's really true. So yeah, I can confirm. So that's why I see the potential in Central and Eastern Europe due to the costs, due to the educated staff, and due to the willing to do something really, really new. In Serbia, particular because of the regulation still under it's not as much regulated in the European Union part of it. It's not so open like Switzerland or Germany, which introduced a blockchain even in the government side. It's not so wide and a huge country like in Dubai. I mean, in terms of money they have. They they have a strategy 2020 to have everything from the government perspective on the blockchain.
That's pretty
everything. And the Sheikh said, and it must be done. That's true. It's all okay.
But you think that Serbian government is supportive for blockchain technology and startups?
As far as I've met prime minister advisors and people who are dealing some over here in terms of startups, maybe not too supportive yet, but also not blocking too much. I mean, in terms of blocks, in terms of opening an industry, new entity, registering startups.
Okay, that's easy, yeah.
Yeah.
But what about political instability?
That's the question. That's the question always the same. We have the same in Poland. You have the same in Hungary now. So political instability can impact you, of course. But in terms of risk ratio, if you compare here to Ukraine, where you have plenty of investors doing blockchain or cryptocurrencies, or even in Moscow, in Russia, with Putin running the country, well, that's the differences. So the question is always on risks. But from my perspective, it's still limited or manageable. And I won't see a huge problems on the horizon on next couple of months or over the year, which is needed to rise and start. I assume, and from my conversation also in the region, that once the government will see how Germany and Switzerland are running, and Germany also decided last year to have some parts of government issues on the blockchain platforms. So once they see it's running, it's really limiting the costs. It's really working, because we need to see really examples that something really is working. And from my perspective, was also an example of timing. There is one thing about the blockchain which can be an obstacle or a barrier to entry. I mean, the understanding by the normal people. Once you are entering with the payments, Wi-Fi payments and untouched cards, the discussions we had everywhere. From Estonia to Poland, and to how it's secure, how it's going to protect my money, how am I going to spend money on the internet. It was really too hard for some people to decide to enter. Then, which was popularity, it received limited some kind of limit of the people who were involved, and it gained the popularity. So the same goes with the blockchain. As long as the popularity of this and the real cases, existing businesses, really improving quality of life, really improving processes, limiting costs, the speed of the processes. Once you pay with a blockchain, with a cryptocurrency, you immediately, or after a few seconds, see the money on your bank account or your blockchain, yeah?
But banks are not so crypto-friendly.
Of course. That's the same goes with the electricity cars and the gas oil problem.
So you think the time will come?
I think it's probably better. We'll see. The question is in terms of Facebook. That's really interesting. If they really want to do that, that's going to be kind of a game changer in terms of adoption, in terms of paying for that on the Facebook. If we compare how much people they have to they have popularity more than some countries even, yeah? There was a question.
Are there any crypto-friendly Serbian banks?
You mean?
Are there any crypto-friendly local banks?
Local banks?
Serbian banks, yeah.
I had a question, I had a discussion with few of them. I can say that, statistically, majority needs to be educated. Majority. I remember discussing with one bank on the new Belgrade last December when we were presenting what we're doing and discussing about, okay, hold on. And we need to discuss with them the movie from the very beginning. So yeah, that's the popularity and rise of the awareness, what's really that. From the bank's perspective, always it's a threat because it's gonna maybe not kill, but limit their money. If we see that, we haven't seen the movie because you were late. We were watching the movie which showed that banks in 2014 transfers of the money costs globally $1.5 trillion. So that's the money we're talking about. If we really can limit that, or make this little small way to have a part of it, that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, but which part of the banking took that money? I think it's usually the transactional banking sector.
Sure.
And it will die off. For example, there is a Japanese bank. I don't remember what its name, some Japanese name. They introduced blockchain for cross-border payments, for international transfers, for the Asia Pacific region.
Yeah.
And what they did is to reduce the time to transfer money from 2 to 3 days to 1 hour.
Exactly.
And at the fraction of the cost.
So that's the question, but we're talking about Japan and Far East regions, where Hong Kong and Singapore is pretty mature in terms of adoption.
Yeah, so actually what we need to do with the banks in here, I mean, I organized 2 blockchain conferences, now I'm organizing the 3rd, and every time I invited somebody from the National Bank for a panel discussion, it was a strict red light. Absolutely
no.
They don't even want to discuss it.
Yeah.
And most of the bankers from the private sector, like the top management is in the same mood, but people like in the middle management are more open to learn something, but they have like, okay, you can go, but you're going to pay for yourself, we're not paying you anything to go or anything. But if you present them use cases where actually banks improved service, reduced costs, and improved, I think that can actually help to open their minds a little bit more to.
That's the case of JP Morgan. They initially said no, then after 6 months said, well, maybe we can think about it, and then they implemented some kind of a solution, talking about even
JP Morgan coin.
Yeah, something. So that's the momentum. So the question of timing, and in my perspective, yes, that's good. All the Central Eastern Europe countries are really predictable. I see the chances and potential. Good. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you very much for being. Food is waiting. Beer is waiting. We can still have. I'll be happy to discuss which more informal way. Thank you.